In the Lake District of Northern England, a delightful garden, and within an organic pool, trimmed with local sandstone and brimming with artistic exuberance. It would be the most informing subject for a film. However, this film is not about this pool, which is a shame. It would have been brilliant. But now, showing the exquisite layers of foliage and sculptures tumbling into bubbles and blossom-dabbled reflections, seems pointless. Nor is this film about its curator, Paul, a fascinating artist, author, expert gardener and professor of ceramics with mind-provoking works in the most prestigious museums. Alas, exploration of these wildly interesting subjects is no longer the topic for this story. It's about goats. It all changed direction one normal day when I was wrestling 35 feet of 80mm perforated land drain, when Fran and her daughter, Flora, came to look. I'm here and this is Paul's pool. Paul is a fantastic ceramic artist, but we'll find out about that later. This is his quite novel approach to making a pool. Fran has come over to have a look, and Fran was another victim of my course, but more recent victim, and she's going to make a pool shortly, and she's also got this amazing idea about yoga with goats.
Yeah, yoga with goats by the pool room.
Yeah.
Do your yoga with goats. Have a little refresh afterwards.
There we go, look at them. Organic pools and goat yoga. That's all we need. Goats were now frolicking in the meadows of my mind. How does yoga fit with goats? I started foolishly experimenting with a billy goat we named Gandalf. He was dumped outside our house from a speeding car one midnight.
Let's try again.
Clearly, Gandalf had not been formally trained in yogic ways.
Oh, no way.
While I was fending Gandalf from grazing the marginal plants, Fran was digging her dream goat-based pool. The soil for the site was prone to high groundwater levels, which makes building more problematic, so a concrete base was laid.
Then the water goes in.
The swim zone wall was made from solid concrete blocks, stacked end on, making the 1 metre high wall with the minimum number of blocks. However, the saturated clay subsoil exerted too much inward pressure, causing the walls to bow. Temporary struts propped the walls while the pool shape was prepared for the liner layers. One of the helpers was a kite flyer, so he was really good at making neat folds. As soon as the liner was in, the pool was partially filled with tap water to provide outward pressure to keep the walls in place. A 40cm high block wall was made on top, and coarse gravel introduced as the lower layer for the plant filter beds. When I heard Fran had made her pool, I could finally see goat yoga.
How many points do I get for that dive?
And it was not without a twinge of some excitement that I set my sat-nav for due north. After 300 miles, illustrated by the obligatory driving shot, I arrived at an agricultural building disguised with large cladding, a perfect cover for goat yoga.
6, nice and slowly 5. Good. Keeping your shoulders relaxed, your elbows up high. Exhale. Drop your shoulders down, draw your elbows forward.
There was some ritual in progress, but I discreetly infiltrated the group during a rhythmic incantation.
Definitely warm enough to sweat. Inhale.
This is hot yoga.
Heels and toes touch. Bring your chin down. Could you notice I turn a little bit more bossy as soon as I start in this room? Exhale. Lift your chest
Presumably,
up.
the goats are tropical and only introduced when we are fully warmed up.
Without bending your elbows, good. Without bending of your knees. The depth is not important, but the
Soon the heat was just too much, and I thought, sod this, I need to see that pool. And ignoring breathing instructions, I made a dash.
one spot in the front mirror.
In the deliciousness of the moment, my mind didn't need to question life's fundamentals. Why so few plants in this pool? Why the walls were made with lightweight aerated concrete blocks? And why the bubble pumps weren't vertical? These and other questions like the existence of goats I also avoided. So I asked Fran about yoga.
It's just a way of connecting your mind with your body, essentially. In your everyday life, when do you ever look at your body, really? Only when something goes wrong. And what you do in yoga is you just pull the mind in towards the body and you let the body work for you and you work for your body more.
And does a pool help with yoga?
For me, because I teach hot yoga. Now, people that practice hot yoga usually have quite a lot going on in their heads and they need something to pull that mind into force the mind into the body. So whether it's heat that makes you think about your breath, or whether it's cold that makes you think about your breath, you have no choice. You have no chance, but you have to control your breath, control your mind, you're in the present. And when you're in the present, you know, you don't have any regrets of the past or fear of the future.
However, to my mind, this pool, partially raised out of the ground, was not without some regrets. The most striking thing that's wrong with this pool is that the regeneration zone, the planted zone, is far too shallow. It's only about 20 centimetres deep. It should be something more like 70, 80, 90 centimetres deep, even deeper. Because we've got something very shallow, very wide, about 5 metres wide, so these are perfect conditions for algae to grow. So to compete with the algae, we need plants, but the plants are really struggling. And the reason they are struggling is because this substrate is just incredibly harsh. It's just sort of small rocks and big rocks. And so what we need to do is help these plants along, put lots and lots of plants in, and probably in this situation put in pots with some soil and covered over in clay. So that could be one strategy. The other thing is to try and get this as deep as possible, take away some of the substrate, put it up at the edge. And if we do that, that will also protect the liner from damaging UV radiation. So the pool's got a few problems, but it's not beyond hope. More troubling for me was my failure to see goats. Even relaxing in my tent, the nearest I could visualise were small sheep. Maybe I'm just not believing enough, but I haven't actually seen any goats. And I've come here to make a film about goat yoga.
Right, yeah.
Is it just that if you really believe you can see the goats?
Goat yoga, I did want to do goat yoga. The goats, unfortunately, had to find a new home because they ate everything. And they got a bit heavy to do goat yoga. And as much as I tried to get Billy, the non-shy goat, to get onto my back and to, you know, downward-facing dog, he unless there was like a mountain of food on top, he wasn't up for it.
But in my mental well-being, would it help if I tried to shove a goat on my back?
The thing is, because, you know, I'd heard about goat yoga, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get goats was because I really wanted to try it. Because for me it was just a laugh, really, and everything that makes you light-hearted, it's like doing handstands or something like that, it makes you feel light-hearted, it takes away pressures, and there's something about the goat yoga that to me, you know, resonated with the light-heartedness of it all. However, when I got goats, and when you spend time with goats, There's something very hypnotic about them, you know. The same thing. It's hard to think about what you're going to have for dinner when you're face to face with a goat. They sort of transport you into the present. Yeah, I did feel that when I had them. You know, I was very happy when I was, you know, with Billy and Lily, trying to get them to get on my back, or chasing Lily around, or trying to stop them eating the plants and stuff. That's not quite so therapeutic, but still, there was definitely something otherworldly about the goats.
And in another world, Gandalf now lives. It's at an animal sanctuary. He shares a field with a ram, and they butt each other happily all day. Now for yoga, my son has found an alternative maverick animal. Oh, does that hurt?
Not really.
Is it relaxing?
Not really.